Well, almost Happy New Year out there. This is the Midnight Skeptic coming at you again, and here is my play in music. You are listening to KPCA LP, Petaluma, California, at 103.3 FM and worldwide at www.kpca.fm. And this is the Midnight Skeptic. The views of the Midnight Skeptic are not, repeat, not necessarily the views of KPCA or any of its affiliates. Okay, this is show number 101. It will go out over the airs, KPCA LP 103.3 FM, this Sunday, New Year's Day. And today is December 29th. I'm recording it on a Thursday. And this will be up on YouTube as soon as possible. As soon as I get through this recording, it'll be up on YouTube. And I did it again on last week's show. This is my cat, Sasha, by the way. She's my stress reliever. I didn't keep close enough track of the time on my computer screen, and so I just ran over the hour with still some things to say. So that will be rectified now. And again, let me say that this show, The Midnight Skeptic, hopefully my goal in doing all of this show is to be, for this country to be, the United States of America, for a Republican-free, MAGA head-free country. And to my thousands and thousands of listeners and YouTubers out there, please forego your New Year's Eve parties and watch this on YouTube, and you'll be educated. And I got to remind you to send all your hate mail and death threats and constructive criticism to the Midnight Skeptic at gmail.com. It's all one connected word. Okay. And I got to remind you, you don't need any reminding, but I'll remind you anyway. I am woke. And another one of my goals is to make the word woke a good thing to be. It should be. Kind, understanding, accepting of everybody with all their quirks. Honestly, I don't accept MAGA heads that well, but even them, they have a right to breathe clean air and drink clean water and have a good job and pursue their life's happiness as they see fit, except for just hating on other groups. Okay, I don't quite accept MAGA heads that are that way. Sips. That was my cat that just jumped off the desk. Okay, shout outs. Anchor.fm and they accumulate other podcasts and broadcasts like this one and disseminate it through the whole world. Okay, I have a couple in the EU, a couple in New Zealand, a couple in Australia, 3 in Canada, and still 1 in Russia. Okay, and shout-outs. I want to shout out to projectcensored.org, the State of the Free Press 2023 is available now. So go to projectcensored.org and put in an order. And if you do it early enough, then you'll get Mickey Huff's signature on there. I think he still remembers how to write his name. And Okay, locally, Nariman and Tom Gaffey at the Phoenix Theater and John Crowley at the Aquas Cafe here in Petaluma, which is evolved into kind of a community center there. Keith and Cody and Tom and Nancy and Kevin and Lori up in Katati, and then over to Sebastopol, Rich and Kathy. I'm doing this, and the YouTube people can see this. I'm doing this portion of it without notes, so I'm trying to really tax my brain here. Going all the way down to Pacifica, Stan and Kathy and Susan Miller. I remembered her name finally. She's the lefty down in Pacifica. And in San Francisco, Yvonne Santos. And then over to Tiburon, Dennis and Megan. And then again down in L.A., Jackie and Wayne Kolar and their two daughters, Samantha and Melanie. And then over to Arizona, my brother Bran and his wife Mina, their niece, their daughter, my niece, Andrea, she's a nurse, and her husband Tim, and the three little terrorists. And occasionally I said tourists, but they're terrorists. Good kids, all three of them. And then over to Arkansas, Shannon Reed, and then down to Florida, Amelia Beamer and Nelson and Alice Slidell, up to Raleigh, North Carolina, Dr. Dave Rubin, the lung doctor extraordinaire. And then Long Island, Geraldine Goldfinger, and then the Sonora crowd, my old hometown. Tim Conrad, who was from Sonora. He's actually in Petaluma now. Very good photographer. Robert and Colleen Finnegan, Bob and Sandy Fisher, their daughter Martha, who is a nurse up there. Take care of yourself. And Brad. And Dara Larson, Judy May, Leonidas Maciel, Kathy Francis, and Lynn Quayle. And then down to Mexico City, Rosamalia Lopez Negrete. They all listen in occasionally. Okay, now back to the part of the show that was supposed to be broadcast last week, but then I ran out of time and it just cut me off. So, okay. Let's see. Oh, I was talking to you about book banning and this MAGA head woman in Utah. She formed Utah Parents United, and her name is Brooke Stevens, and she calls herself the curriculum director. She's influenced Utah lawmakers to pass House of Representatives Bill 374, which requires public K-12 schools to, quote, remove books containing pornographic or indecent matter. And of course, she gets to decide what that is. It goes without saying. That's typical of MAGA head thinking. And she isn't directly responsible for this, but 52 books have been banned from Utah's largest school district, which is the Alpine School District. And they're right outside of Salt Lake City. There is hope, however. Librarians in Texas, may they have a good new year in 2023. Librarians in Texas formed Freedom Fighters. Okay, now let me spell freedom for you as they spell it. Capital F, R-E-A-D, O-M, Freedom Fighters. In Florida, parents who oppose book banning formed the Freedom to Read Project, because there's a lot of MAGA head thought floating around in Florida. The governor down there, who I shall refer to always from now on, is Bloatbag Jr. He's nothing but a bunch of political stunts put together to make himself look good to the MAGA head base, which are the lowest common denominator of people in the United States. Okay. Okay, I mentioned the names of the three movers behind Florida's Freedom to Read projects: Stefana Farrell, Jen Cousins, and Reagan Miller. They were the founders of this group. They keep close track of Florida Citizens Alliance. That's the book banning group. The ACLU and the PEN America are all in enthusiastic support of the Florida's Freedom to Read project. Okay, good news. I'm still reading the last little bit from last week's show. Okay, good news. A UN forum reaches a historic deal to protect biodiversity across the whole planet. Chinese Environment Minister Huang Rongqiu said, quote, "We have in our hands a package which I think can guide us as we all work together to halt and reverse biodiversity loss and put it on the path to recovery for the benefit of all people." And if the Chinese are firmly supporting this, then good for them. Okay, there is a commitment to protect 30% of the land and water on this planet by the year 2030. I hope this comes to fruition. Okay, more good news. Dutch Prime Minister apologized Monday, on the 19th of this month, for the Netherlands' role in slavery and the slave trade. I don't know if there's any true MAGA heads in the Netherlands, but they would never go for that. Oh, that's CRT. Okay, Mark Rutte, capital R-U-T-T-E, in a 20-minute speech said the Netherlands is establishing a $212 million fund to tackle the legacy of slavery in the Netherlands and its former colonies. Suriname, which is down in South America, and St. Martin's and Curacao, and other Caribbean ex-Dutch colonies. They were really big on using slave labor, mainly for the sugarcane industry. Okay, but anyway, I'm off my notes, I'm riffing, but the state of California here has a commission that is studying potential reparations here in California, and there's a lot of problems involved with that. Well, first of all, who deserves it? Who were true victims of discrimination and redlining? And the state of California had plenty of problems. We were admitted into the Union as a quote-unquote free state. Well, we had slaves here, and I think that our treatment of the native indigenous peoples, the Native Americans here in California, should be addressed as well as black slavery reparations. Okay, off my notes. Let's see. Netherlands and its former colonies, Suriname, St. Martin's, Curacao, and others. Okay, new topic. Carrie Lake, that horrible woman. And she's filed a lawsuit to overturn the election in Arizona. She is a loser in the election for governor. A Maricopa County judge threw out 8 of 10 claims Lake made in her lawsuit. 2 of her claims remain for trial. Lake claims that a Maricopa County employee had interfered with the election voting process. And of course, she didn't present any evidence for this, just wild-ass claims. And since I wrote that, the other two were dismissed by a judge for having no evidence. And she's going to appeal, and her stupid MAGA head followers are contributing money to her legal efforts to overturn the election and install her as governor of Arizona. Okay, and then I was going to end last week's show on good news, which I've promised to do from now on. I have had some suggestions from some listeners that I try to concentrate on more good news. And so I'm going to start off the broadcast with good news and end the broadcast with good news, and sprinkling more and more good news throughout the show. I'm going to try to do that. Okay, last week's show was ending on this. Great news. Volodymir Zelensky is Time's Person of the Year. Now, this was last week, and I got the issue of it. It's one of the magazines I subscribe to, and it was a good issue. Okay. And we'll be coming tomorrow. Oh, okay. He already did this, but okay. And Volodymyr Zelensky will be coming tomorrow, 12/21. Well, that was last Wednesday. Not yesterday, but a week ago yesterday. To address a joint session of Congress. And I wrote down here in my notes, will the pro-Putin Republican MAGA heads be there? Well, a number of them did not show up. And a number of them that did show up very pointedly didn't stand up to applaud him after he finished his speech. I think Lauren Boebert, Miss Gun America, was one of them that did not stand up to applaud. Okay. All right. That was the remainder of last week's show. This week's show, and let's see, what did I write down? I started off with good news. The Arizona governor's race is over. An Arizona judge on Saturday, 12/24, rebuffed an effort by Kari Lake to reverse the outcome of her November election. A 2-day trial. A judge actually sat there and heard these arguments. Okay, a 2-day trial found that there was no evidence for malfeasance at the polls. There were some problems with the ballot printers, but nothing that would have affected the outcome of this. And, okay, icing on the cake. Lake's attorneys were ordered to pay all court costs. Yay! Okay, but there's going to be stupid MAGA head people that will donate money to Kari Lake so she can give the lawyers their fees so they can pay court costs. Okay. All right. Let's see. New topic. Okay. Is this called Hot Yoga Tallahassee? And this is a case study of misogynistic extremism. A mass shooter shot to death a couple of massage therapists up in Tallahassee, Florida, and which prompted in March of 2022, the U.S. Secret Service issued a national threat assessment, and they're underneath the Department of Homeland Security. And it was done by a guy. I don't know exactly how old he was, but he was in his 30s, I guess. But he was an incel, very misogynistic, and he wanted to take out his anger on some unsuspecting women. Okay. Misogynistic incels are overwhelmingly MAGA heads, Republicans, followers of the orange sociopathic bloat bag. And this is the good news part of it. They are increasingly being watched and monitored online by federal law enforcement agencies. And, the incel thing. Back in the early 1990s, there was a Canadian woman, and her first name is Alana, and she didn't want her last name mentioned. I don't know it, but if I did know it, I would respect her wishes. And she coined the term involuntary celibate. And her original intent was to have an online forum where lonely guys who are, socially inadequate or socially awkward and just can't establish relationships with women could gather and talk. Her hope was that they could be helped. Well, okay, the MAGA head type hate and misogyny crept into it, and the term itself was shortened to incel. And then and it became a forum. And I think 4chan was a place where these incels met and griped and ran themselves off at the mouth. But hate and intolerance and ignorance crept into the mix. In other words, it was what later became MAGA heads. Okay. Oh, here's a good Here's a good posting on Facebook. And this is a quote. "We're flying electric helicopters on Mars, yet you can't turn on your clothes dryer in Texas. That's because scientists are in charge of Mars and Republicans are in charge of Texas." Hear, hear. Okay, I'm keeping close track of this time count today, so I'm not going to let that happen again. I promise all my thousands and thousands of listeners I will get through all of my notes. But first, a sip. This is grape juice. Last week I gave you a peek at my cat and an actual wine glass full of red wine. My stress relievers, as I call them.